Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of Office Hours, a podcast where we talk about the creative world and everything in between. Today, we're going to be learning from Rachel Elnar, who is a designer and also community builder here in Los Angeles. She is someone who I have looked up to for the last decade. Honestly, I have learned so much from her. I have worked with her. She has become my mentor and my friend, and I'm so excited to have her on the show for everyone else to meet her and to learn from her. In our conversation today, we talk a lot about the design community, something that is very, very near and dear to our hearts. She shares with us how she started her own community with her late husband, Michael, how she has brought her experience from hospitality into the community space, and how she produces her events. And we dabble a little bit on what we are hoping to see more and less of in the design community and the future of our space. My heart is so full after this conversation, and I'm so excited for you all to hear. Let's get into it.
You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. If you've spent any time in the design community, chances are you already know today's guest, Rachel Elnar. And I'd like to take this moment to introduce her and give her her flowers. So I already warned her. I'm like, it's going to feel like I'm singing happy birthday to you. So I first met Rachel back in 2017, so nearly a decade ago, when she was hosting Just My Type at General Assembly in downtown LA. That was actually my very first speaking gig. And around that time, she launched Type Thursday LA chapter here in LA. And I volunteered with her team as just a greeter, and little did I know how much that moment would really shape my path. Rachel, I genuinely don't think I'd be where I am today without your mentorship and through Type Thursday and trusting me with brilliant minds. You opened so many doors and taught me so much about community, leadership, and generosity. And Rachel has such an incredible gift for connecting people and creating spaces where those connections really, truly last. I think everyone that you ever introduced me to, I've become good friends with. And as co-founder of Type Ed, a professor, event producer at Adobe, all things that you've done before, co-founder of Together by Design and co-host of Cheers and Tears, and most recently, AIGA board president-elect.
Yeah.
Her impact on this community is deeply felt by so many of us. I know I'm speaking for so many of us when we say that you are such a gem and such a keeper to this community. And I'm so grateful to call you both my friend and a mentor. So Rachel, thank you for being here. Yay! Happy birthday!
Thank you.
It was just one of those, I'm holding the candle with the cake. You're just yay!
I love
it! Yes, of course. Rachel has her own soundboard, which I'm so jealous.
Oh, it's just one of those things. Oh, yeah, I really appreciate it. And I totally forgot about Brilliant Minds. That was a great... Yeah, so the precursor about that was it was a random event that all the General Assemblies were doing, which I didn't think was great because you never knew who you were showing up to watch. And I'm glad that you and I were able to tag team on hosting that and kind of bring a theme to it.
Yes.
And also elevate voices in the community who are doing amazing things, who were just not, super popular or famous or come from big companies, but they were doing amazing things. So yeah, I love that.
I miss Brilliant Minds because I felt like it was so fun to produce, so fun to host also. And I like what you said, it's about folks who are in the community and we'll get into that in a little bit about the differences between, featuring folks who are very popular versus folks who are within our community and how I personally would love to be able to strike a balance. But we can get into that. That's actually towards the end, towards the spicy question.
Oh, okay. Can't wait.
But our conversation today is going to be about community, of course, because I was like, I feel like you're the community queen. And I was always curious about what originally pulled you into doing community work. Is this something that sort of just became a part of who you are, or was it something that you always set out to do?
No. So how this started was, so I was running a design firm with my late husband, Michael Stinson. And we had noticed, or he had called this out, like, back in the day, when you were an agency to get work, sometimes you would get called to do an RFP, which is a request for proposal. And sometimes you wouldn't just do it automatically. You would have to be invited, right? Mm-hmm. And so Michael was like, how come we're not getting invited to some of these big projects? Mm. He saw Josh Chen of Chen Design Associates. He saw Nine with Christopher Simmons, some of our contemporaries who were getting invited to pitch for some projects. And I said, well, nobody knows us, Mm-hmm. I mean, we might have a website or whatnot, but nobody knew who we were. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that people who were invited to be speakers at conferences, people who were being invited to do these pitches, they were part of the community. They were known because they were also giving back. They weren't just, doing work. They were giving back to the community. They were giving back to students. They were teachers. They were educators. There were people who were involved in AIGA and whatnot. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should get involved in AIGA. So I was the guinea pig, the first one to get involved. And so I really love AIGA, would always attend the events and go to the conferences, but I was never involved in terms of the board or giving back. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of how I did it. I just got involved. If you complain enough to your local AIGA chapter, they will recruit you to help shape what their programming is. And that's exactly what I did. And I've been a lifer for over 20 years now with the AIGA LA community, and also now with National for the last few years. So and recent, again, President-elect, congratulations again. Thank you.
That. I am so, like, when I saw that post come out, I was like, yes. I was like, that's exactly who we need in this position. I was like, I could not have thought about anyone else who would be perfect for this position. And I like what you're saying. Like, it's one thing, because I also have a studio, and it's important to be able to be with your community, engaging with them, not just so much from like a self-serving standpoint, but also just like supporting the community. And on our side, it was also our students. Like, I can only imagine that when you brought in your own students into Taipei as well. And it's so beautiful. Like, that's become one of my favorite things about working with community, is like, you watch someone who was like once really shy, and then now they're like this really like not so shy person. And it's because it's just like, hey, like I could think of one person, Sarah Wong, when she joined Type Thursday LA. I had her join as a greeter, like just to say hello and like passing out the name tags. And then now she's like, she could speak in front of everyone. And I'm just like, I love this for you.
I love that. No, it's great to see your students fly and shine for sure. And also get better jobs than you when you're teaching and making more money. I mean, I started teaching when I was 29, and I just saw, like, after a while, my students were landing at great studios. They were doing amazing things. They were making, great salaries. And it's wonderful to see them really blossom into who they are.
Yeah. You and I started teaching around the same time. I was 30 when I started teaching. And it is nice to see them. I mean, for me, because I'm at a community college, being able to see them shine in their universities is really fun.
Yeah, that's great.
So as I'm speaking to all of our guests, a through line that we actually have had is the word networking, and I'm using air quotes, networking, because in most of those conversations we've landed that networking, the word itself, can be pretty cringy, because especially when I was in school in 2000, when I was in design school in 2009, networking was the buzzword, though. It was like, make sure you have a 30-second pitch, make sure you know what you can offer them, et cetera, et cetera. I feel as though when speaking to a few folks, and especially Gen Z, that is so like icky, which I fully believe as well. Like I'm like, it is icky to have like this 30-minute pitch ready to go. So how do you think, and so we were talking a lot about like community. So instead of networking, it's actually being engaged with your community. So how do you think about community different from traditional networking?
So networking is definitely getting your, who you are out there, letting people know who you are and what you're doing. Community is sort of giving back. So for me, it's about community is the evidence of you giving back and giving back to people who are like you and giving back to the industry. And also kind of networking. Networking is part of that as well. Networking I think is really tough because people have, just like the word sales, you have something in your mind and it doesn't sound great and it feels very intimidating. Going up to someone you don't know and trying to get to know them and what am I supposed to get out of that? Giving either a business card or trading contact information. I think that having a goal is really helpful in order to increase your networking. But honestly, if you just give, people will get to know you. You'll have your the one thing that people know you for because you are giving or you are participating in the community. I think that makes it easier to network because you don't have to go up to strangers. People will come to you.
Yeah, right. I think of that when we were hosting these events. It's far easier to network when you're the host of the events. I have found like
100%.
if I am the host of the event, I'm going out to these people. I'm like, hey, how's it going? First time, like, but funny enough, like when I'm attending someone else's event, I become such an introvert. Like I'm in the corner and like I can't get myself to like talk to people. So I have found that when I tell people, it's like, hey, if you're ever feeling nervous about being at a networking event or like a community event, just pretend that you're hosting.
That is a great way to do it. But I think that as hosts, the best thing to do is build in some sort of icebreaker, some sort of participation. And so it's not a broadcast. It's not just someone standing on stage and just giving out and then hopefully, it's sort of like ignoring everyone in the audience.
Right.
Like they're there as a default. Like get some Q&A, get some conversation, do an icebreaker, get people up and walking around. That's the best way to really make a use and really fulfill the promise of what's happening in the room, right?
Yes.
You've got more than just 2 or 3 people on stage. You've got a room full of people who have many different stories and having some sort of default like an icebreaker helps the networking so much more. Like there's something just embedded in the event that allows for networking to happen much more naturally.
Yes, and I always love that about when we would co-host together. We would always ensure that there is something for the guests, because I get scared when I go to an event and it's just like it's a mixer, and then I get there and I'm supposed to like mix, and I'm like, no, tell me to do something. And so I like icebreakers. I also like scavenger hunts where it's like find someone that you have something in common with, like, and I think that might have come from, now that I'm thinking about it, you and I are both professors. And so I think that's something that we brought in from the classroom, where it's like on day one, it's like you have to get the students to do something, and they'll do it. Like they're happy to do icebreakers, but you have to lead them and guide them to do that. And I think the same thing could go for these events, where I even think like I'm a big fan of, I know they're cheesy, but name tags at an event.
They're not cheesy. They're needed.
They're so needed. I know. I'm like, some folks are like, but name tags are so cheesy because it seems like so kind of corporate. I'm like, no, but like it's just easier, right? Like to be like, hey, like your name's Rachel. Like now I know your name, or like, I don't know. I think those little moments where you can, when you're hosting an event, those little nuggets where you can support the people in the room, I think is so important.
I think name tags are definitely needed. If you have name tags available, it just increases the engagement in the room. I've been to many events where nobody has name tags. you don't want to just go up to someone and just say, "Hi, so what do you do?" I mean, it's a whole process. It just takes too much brain work. And so what you're doing when you're hosting with name tags is creating convenience, and you're creating engagement. You're creating the environment, the room that makes it easy for people to talk to others. So yeah.
Yes.
So it should be default, honestly.
Yes. I honestly believe that as well. I feel like you and I could talk about community logistics on like a whole other separate podcast in of itself, because it's so true, right? And you mentioned engagement. I also want to like add on to that, but also belonging, right? Being able to, like, what I loved about Type Thursday when years back ago, it's like, I think they still do it now, is that, and we do it at our events too, is that when you arrive, your name is already on the name tag. And
Yeah, I love that.
I feel already feels like the belonging just comes with it naturally. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to be here. Like, I've been accounted for, right?
They're expecting me.
Yes. Yeah. We're expecting you. You're invited, that you're here. You're supposed to be here. And can you share a little bit more about, like, because I love that you're saying that, it's not just 2 to 3 people on this stage, but it's everyone in the room. How do you, in addition to name tags, how do you create engagement and belonging?
Engagement and belonging. Well, for sure, the name tags, that helps. In terms of engagement, I think having those icebreakers or having some sort of, I don't know, I like to get people moving in the room, or at least acknowledging each other. So many times when you're sitting watching a stage presentation, for example, you're sitting by someone the whole time and not saying anything. So typically when I do my talks, because I like to design connections, I like to start with, this is a church thing. Talk to the people, say hello to the person next to you, introduce yourself and find out. And then you'll find that over the talk, you might talk more or, you will be able to open up because you've already broken the ice per se.
Yes.
And so even if it's just, you don't have to get people up around the room, but even if it's seated and you have a really limited run of show, or we only have an hour and people need to get out, just a 2-minute hello, say hi to the person next to you, introduce yourself type of thing will help to feel, it will help to bring the tense. It will release any anxiety and people like, oh, I'm sitting too close to them. I'm accidentally like touching their shoulder type of thing.
Yeah.
Just say hi and get to know who they are. And then that's it. Let's go back. And now we have a shared moment watching what's happening. It feels more together. It feels more belonging rather than there are all these little silos of people who are just looking that way.
Yeah, because I agree with what you said. It's like when you're sitting at these conferences or talks, it's like you are sitting next to this person essentially for almost an hour, and you're like really close to them. So you might as well just be like, "Hey, like I'm Chrislam, like I'm like nice to meet you," and then it should just like go off from there. And if it doesn't, it also doesn't. But at least you broke that ice.
Right.
Yeah, and I
broke
think
the tension.
Broke the tension. And I think it's also nice for hosts or MCs to also offer that, right? It's like, I always like to be like, hey, like, if you don't know someone, get to know them, like, turn to your person next to you, right? Just, again, that little moments of, like, guidance, those, like, nuggets of guidance, to just break everything down.
100%. I think that good hosting is good guiding. For me, it's all about hospitality. Instead of having like a fast food restaurant where people have to serve themselves, order their own food, sit down, find their place, clean their table, whatnot. I mean, for me, like good hosting is good hospitality. You welcome people at the door, you demonstrate where to sit, you have a menu, you explain things, you really guide them through the full experience of the event. And it makes people come back for more. Then the community is the outcome from that, because they keep coming back for more and they meet more and more people. And that's when you grow that community. Community is so important, because if you want to grow an event program and you don't want to spend so much time promoting each one, come to this one, like send out an email, send out pay for social media posts or something like that. Like the community will actually promote to each other. Hey, I'm going to be there. You want to go there? Hey,
Yeah,
Kristin, we're
yes.
going to be there. Go together. Like
Yes.
that's the easiest way is build community, and you don't have to worry so much about your marketing effort or budget.
This is so very true. This is very true. Like from Type Thursday, and even like with Work in Progress, it's like people will just be like, "Hey, I'm going. Like, are you coming to the next one?" To the point where we don't really have to market so much because it's just within the network, which is so beautiful. You mentioned hospitality, and I know that with Together by Design, you're sort of, I don't like to use the word intersection, but it really, your practice there, I feel, what I've heard or what I've read is the intersection of hospitality and design. And so you mentioned that your background in hospitality is how you essentially you lead and produce these events. Can you share a little bit more of what you brought from hospitality into producing these events? Obviously you mentioned hosting, but are there any like little like fun tidbits, even like for someone like myself who does host events, like is there something that you can share for wisdom?
Hosting is really tough because you have to think about your guest, and what their experience is. How, Kristin, do you remember, or do you think about a really great dinner you've ever had? Like, is there something that's really notable for you that you can recall?
Outside of the food being delicious, I think nothing really ever comes to mind. Like oh, this moment happened, but I think it's because it's so seamless, right?
Yes.
It's like you almost don't notice that it's happening because if something not great is happening, you'll notice right away, especially when it comes to hospitality. But I feel that I can't really pinpoint because it's all just very seamless.
Yeah, it is seamless because things are placed in a way that follows human psychology, right? Human behavior. There might be, a pat of butter that I need, but instead of asking for a knife, I know it's right there. Things are just provided for you prior to you asking. And I like to call that anticipation, right? Really great service design is anticipatory. It's right there before you notice it, you need it, or have to ask for it. It's right there for you just to seamlessly, like you said, it's just smooth, it's flowing, you don't have to think about it, there's no friction. And you can just go about your meal, and everybody is there asking you if you need anything else, or even better, they don't ask you and they fill up your water glass before you have to ask for more. They provide things or take plates away from you before you even need it. And to me, that is part of a great event, is that it is that experience. You just have to think about the full experience design from start to finish. And of course, we won't be able to provide butter or take away plates during an event per se. However, again, you know that there are people crammed in to the audience. If you just ask them to, introduce themselves or have a mixer prior to it, that's super helpful, with some sort of icebreaker, like you mentioned, maybe a scavenger hunt, which is always fun. I know people are very apprehensive to participate, but if you guide that and say, this is part of the participation, this is part of the event, then it helps people follow those rules, and then they just feel a little bit better. So, just, I don't know. I think there's always a little bit of anticipation going through doors, an event you've never been to. You don't know anyone here. I don't know how to get started. So good hosts and good hospitality is, what does that first couple minutes look like? How can you greet someone at the door with their name tag? How do you say, hey, the bathrooms are over here, food is over here, or even on a virtual event, hello, I see you. You're not invisible to me. Hey, Kristin, I see you in the chat. There's Eric. Say hello, you guys. I know you guys have met together. Connect them together. Make them feel really comfortable as soon as they come in. And I think from there, they can start to, again, release that tension and start to participate more.
Yeah. So always try to find your your butter knife, your butter knife in your events. Like, how do you anticipate for those moments? Because it might not be a butter knife at like WIP or Type Thursday or AIGA, but like what version of that? Like, what can we anticipate from them? And one practice that you did that I noticed, I'm not sure if you did this on purpose, but I've now adopted it. I adopted it myself. Is you used to do this. I mean, you probably still do this, but you do this beautiful thing where if you see someone who's like kind of shy or like it's their first time, you'll go up to them, say hi to them, and then you'll bring them into the circle, and then almost like be like, oh hi, like, oh, like you're almost like, I have this policy, not policy, but I have this, yeah, I guess policy within the internal team, which is called opening the circle. So it's like if you see someone who's like by themselves, bring them in.
Right.
Like, oh, just bring them in. So like what you, and I got that, I created that based off what you've done before, whereas you'll grab someone and you're like, oh, let me introduce you to Eric. Like Eric is, you know, da, 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 da. And then you'll stay with them and then you'll slowly move away.
Yes. Always move away.
Yeah.
Always move away, because we want them to actually have agency over their own conversation, and not for you to bring them in and then tell them what to do and own that conversation.
Okay, that's why, because it's just something that I had noticed that you had done, and I'm like, I love that she's doing that because it just puts the person inside. But I didn't know that you removed yourself for a reason. I would just remove myself because I'm like, okay, I need to go find the next person and bring them together, or just like keep the room moving. But I like what you said, like you're essentially giving them the onus to continue that conversation.
Yeah, and let their personality come out. It's really difficult, again, to connect when someone brings you in and then they own that conversation, right? Because they've led you in. And so how can I shine? How can I bring my voice to this conversation and feel included, you know, unless the person who brought me in allows me to? So you don't have to walk away, but most definitely you should not own that conversation.
Right. Yeah. I love doing, and that's like my favorite part about hosting now, is that like finding the people and being like, oh, is it your first time? And then like there is again that rule that we have within the internal team where it's like so they all know that like I'm bringing someone. So, like, and they know, the team knows, like once I bring someone, it's like, oh, this is so and so, and like they do this and this, and then I just slowly, and they know to take over.
Yes.
They know to take over after that, and so I slowly walk away.
Yeah, and you just don't know when those sparks are going to happen. So being able to connect with more people during an event is better than just one.
Right.
Sometimes we only have energy for one. But if you can sort of make your time around the room and visit as many people, well, not as many people as possible, but, you know, really invest in 3 to 5 different great conversations, I think you'll get something out of that event, even if the content was bad. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, the host will produce bad content, but, you know, part of great event participation is that networking, is that community building. It's not just there to learn something or to like watch your design heroes talk or, you know, do a workshop. It's really to get to know other people.
Yeah. Yeah. Talking more about creating these events, because you've been doing that, I've been doing that. And so, you know, community work is often unpaid, uncredited, and very behind the scenes, as you and I have both learned.
Yeah.
How do you stay motivated when the work can be thankless, or, you know, sometimes it can be, I mean, I remember producing these events that like, when you're done, it feels like you just like produced a wedding and you're just like, you're out of breath and your adrenaline dropped and suddenly you're hungry and your head hurts. So how do you stay motivated?
I don't know. I've never produced a wedding. You have. So that I don't know how much work that is. But honestly, for me, it's just the love of the community. That sounds terrible, right? It sounds like, well, we don't get paid much teaching, but we love our students. Yeah, it sounds terrible, but it is true. We invest in people by hosting these events. We invest in our communities by doing what we do. And yes, a lot of it is thankless, but honestly, I think it comes back tenfold afterwards. You might not get a, hey, Chrislam, that was a great event, you know, like 2 minutes after it was done. But afterwards, you will see, for example, after one of my events at Adobe, Chrislam and Harrison all of a sudden got on a podcast after I introduced them on an Adobe event. So to watch that network grow is what, it just warms my heart to see that people are growing in their careers and their lives because of these connections.
Yes, that is so beautiful. It's so true. Like I know it sounds very like, oh my gosh, like it's so like fluffy. It's like we do it for the I think it's so true though. It's like we do it for the love of the community, for our students. It's for me it's very, it gives me so much energy, even though like after all these events I'm like drained. But it is like I love being able to see, like for example with WIP, what I love seeing right now is a lot of my own students at Mount Sac. We have students coming from Cal Poly to WIP, and now
That's
they're like
great.
they're talking, they're hanging out, and they're like, and what a beautiful thing to think about, that there's a community building on like east of LA, right, closer like in Pomona area, where I know that there's a big design community in LA, and I've always wanted to try and bring some of that east, not maybe, or even just start some more east, like Covina, Pomona,
Mm-hmm.
because it's you know like LA can be so far away from Pomona. It is very far away. So it is very nice to see those communities building within those communities. And like you said, like with me and Harrison, and like I've even gotten Harrison to like join our advisory board at Mount Sac. So it's like,
What? I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah, he, not as of recently, but a couple years ago, like I had him on the advisory board, and it's just been nice to learn from these people who have like their center of expertise, and like we bring it into the college. So yeah, those connections are so beautiful.
They're so
Um,
valuable because we like to work with people we know, right?
mhm.
So even for our career, it really flourishes when you have people who you trust. And even like me, when I was at Adobe, I'm building a team. I just think, who do I know who can do this job? Who is great? It's just the familiar people. So I think that networking and community is worth more than the price you paid in terms of the cost of admission for an event or the time that you've put into it. I mean, it really
Yes.
pays off in dividends.
Yeah, I mean, I have gotten like David Tucker. He
Oh,
and I knew each
yes.
other from Type Thursday, and I got a job because I happened to know Tucker was looking for an art director one time, and I just like slipped into his DM, and I was like, hey. So I always like to say, like, it's so true when they say it's not what you know, it's who you know. Like, oh
Right.
my
Or
gosh,
who
is
knows
that
you? Or who
right?
knows
Yes,
you,
yes.
right?
That's a huge one. Um, were there any growing? So I'm sort of transitioning us into like, okay, I like, let's say I want to start a community or I want to get it involved. Were there any learning moments that you had where you're like, oof, like that sucked. I'm not doing that again. And you don't have to get like too in the details or the weeds of things, but were there any like moments where you're like, I won't, like if I were to do this all over again, this is what I would not do.
Yeah, I think the best example of that is LA is Just My Type, which was literally
Mm.
a meetup group. I just
Mm-hmm.
paid $10 at the time to start a meetup group at meetup.com, which I don't know if it exists anymore, but
Oh
maybe
wow,
it
yeah,
still does.
throwback. I don't know. That's a huge
And
throwback.
it was
Yeah.
basically like lovers of typography, those who are type
Yes.
designers, those who love type. This was way before Type Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And just trying to gather people together and following the AIGA model is, but really focusing on type is people
Mm.
who were doing amazing things with type, which was basically, I don't remember some of the speakers that I had on, but we always would have people like, for example, DJR,
Mm.
who is a type designer.
Mm-hmm.
And David Jonathan Ross is doing great work, and he was on the East Coast. I met him through TypeCon, and I brought him out, and he just had a huge following
Mm-hmm.
out here. And it was like that thing. It was that event plus more events where we were
Mm.
starting to grow because people love type and they wanted to learn more about type as much as I did. And there
Mm-hmm.
were not very many type resources in the LA
Mm-hmm.
area. So having just a casual event thing was a great way to start. Now, how did I start that? Very scary. Because I'm like, okay, so I began with just, hey, I'm going to have drinks. Let's just meet and talk about what you're into. And I held this at the rooftop of the Ace Hotel.
Yeah.
Just had a gathering, invited people to A, join the meetup group and B, come out. and had people like fill out little surveys and, have name tags and just get to know each other. And for me, it's all about knowing your audience. So I like to like survey them, try to see what they're into, what they want to learn more about. And from that, really build events in terms of the needs. Not what I want to do, which is always great, but but what your community wants, because that's who you're serving.
So you were looking for like a need from the community, but also a little bit motivated by your curiosity and what you were looking for in our community. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a lot should be done without asking. I think polls are a great way to see what people are into, surveys, or even just like this one-to-one interviews, understand like who your quote unquote audience is. If you're talking marketing, who your audience is in order to serve them. And that's the best way to do the community. But it was really scary because I set up shop. It was Michael and I had a couple drinks and I had my surveys ready and I had a sign that says Los Angeles is just my type, and we had quite a few people coming over. Like, are you doing a speed dating thing? No.
It's like, those are typography, and they're like, okay.
Yeah. I know they're like, what? Like, I don't understand.
You're like, fonts.
So we had like 12 or 15 people show up, and it was just a great way to. I mean, I was scared no one would show up, but people did show up, which was great. You just say, hey, we're having drinks in the middle of LA. Of course, people are going to show up. Yeah. But what was great about this is that it created that foundation. It created people who were invested. And so the next time you do an event, you already know the people, they know you. And so it's easier to build on top of that.
Yeah. And you said like 15 people, like that sounds pretty small, but it's actually 15 people is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and I feel like that's sometimes even my own fear where I'm like, oh my God, no one's going to show up. And I have like 30 people. I'm like, wait, that was a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of
50
people.
people is a lot. 15, 20 people is quite of a lot of people to host.
Right. Especially for the first one.
Yeah. I think we had 45 at the very first whip, and I was like, this is a lot of people. It doesn't sound like a lot, right? Because like we're used to the numbers like AIGA Type Thursday, like 60, 70, 100, and I was like, oh, 40 doesn't feel like a lot, but it's okay. But then when there was like 45 people in the room, I was like, oh wow, this is a lot of people.
Even if you have 5, it is a success, because you have to start somewhere. You have to put it all on the line and just say, hey, I'm drawing a line in the sand, and whoever wants to come onto my side, then this is what we're building together. Yeah,
just do it. I always say like folks who Ria Rendon is someone who is really good at like, I'm just gonna build something to build something, and who knows if it'll be great, or if not, it's also fine. So that's really beautiful, like how you started with just LA is just my type, and now it's sort of like really evolved into this beautiful. I mean, like you've done so many things ever since, and I'm gonna bring us into your role as AIGA, your future role as AIGA president, because it's again talking about community. What are your hopes, and even if you're able to share like your priorities and goals when you step into this role? If you're only whatever you're allowed to share, obviously.
Well, let me go back to the LA is just my type. So started with 15 people showing up and ended up with 960 members at the very end.
Was huge.
It was huge. Yeah. It was great. So trying to do the same thing with AIGA. Right now, the membership has shrunk based on, COVID, everything pandemic, basically kind of messed up everything that was in person. Less people are coming out. Less people are in the cities, are in areas where we had membership chapters. People have moved out because of remote work or whatnot, changes in their lives. And so really interested in just getting people back to being members. And the way we do that is just like what I did with LA is just my type. Survey them. Let's just find out who they are, what their needs are, especially right now in the turmoil that is our design industry with AI and all the layoffs that are happening, not only in our industry, but in all the industries happening, all the industries, especially in tech. is just trying to find out what are people needing most and serving them on that level. So that's my number one priority, is just to like, again, we're a community who's supposed to serve the design profession. Let's find out what's happening in the design profession so we can serve them.
Yeah. Yeah. I know like the biggest thing, like when I was sitting on the board briefly last year or the year before, it was like getting people in the same room. Like that was the craving, was like these events and gatherings. But it's so hard, right? I feel like LA is really unique in a sense that, I mean, I have always had trouble with this with producing events. It's like if you host something on the east side, you're eliminating the whole west side, and then vice versa. And so it's really hard. So is there, are there plans to, oh, well, actually you're at national, so it's like
I'm national, yeah.
Yeah. So you're not even LA. So I was gonna ask, like, are there any, but that's a question for Joseph Soto.
Joseph, yeah.
But how do you plan to do that at the national level? Like, is that just sharing it amongst the chapter and sharing like your stories and encouraging them to do startup gatherings? I mean, obviously AIGA themselves have their own programming within chapters, but what are sort of your guidance to them in the future?
Yeah, supporting the chapters. I mean, for a long time, again, members have not been getting their needs met, which is why membership has reduced, in addition to the pandemic and everything else that's happening. Just finding out more about our members and finding out more about the community and trying to serve them. So, yeah, the way to do that is to support the front lines, which is basically the chapters that we have across the country.
Yeah, making sure that they feel supported. Yeah. Outside of your role of president of AIGA, and so like really just speaking on your behalf as Rachel, what do you think is current? I just want to make sure I put that out there because I want to make sure I protect you also.
Yeah.
What do you think is currently missing from the design community? And I'm happy to go first. That way it's like, that way we can get that conversation started. But we sort of like talked about it briefly at the very top of the episode, where the reason why we do what we do is to get the folks in our community on stages in front, because oftentimes it's those folks who are very popular, who get invited time and time again. And there's no, like, I have no, like, there's nothing wrong with them, but I always crave to see more of
Diversity.
Yes, yeah. Like I love to hear from our big names, of course, but you know, when I see them yet again at the same big event, like the sixth time, I'm like, do we not have any other people that we can put on stage? And so I wanted to lead with that just in case, but that's what I feel like I really am craving from our like big community leaders, is like, I want more of the boots on the ground people.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the fact that you and I both like to elevate and give designers a platform that they've never had before. I mean, honestly, designers are typically introverts, right?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to get to invite people onto the stage. I mean, even having a large platform like Adobe Creative Connections or Creative Jams, it was tough. People don't want to talk in front of thousands of people, even if it's in front of a camera. Yeah, I mean, they just see that Adobe audience and they think, oh, that's way too many people. So, start small. I really think that it would help your career if you did these type of things, have interviews, speak in front of classes, just share your story, teach and tell people not only your journey, but also teach them the lessons that you've learned, because that's being done, but more, I don't know. The thing that I see is that people talk about themselves, but they're not really teaching things that will help others, right? There's a lot of influencer culture, and it's great to know how you might like move your mouse around and click here, and then you can make a poster or whatnot. But what are those overall lessons? Like, how do I get this job? How do I get where you were? And this is what I loved about doing using my Adobe platform, is demonstrate how to go from classroom to career. It's like, how do we bridge that gap? And maybe you can keep telling that story over and over from a video producer at Whole Foods or from, the creative director at Imaginary Forces. No matter what type of job that you want to have, we have there's many, many people out there who already have gone through that and learned those lessons. And so, yeah, I like to hear those type of stories, no matter who you are or what big company you are. Like, what are the lessons that you can teach me to help me understand where we are and how I get to where you are?
Yeah, right. Again, I think that comes a lot from our background as educators, right? Because we see our students like like I like what you said, like there's a lot of influencer content where like, yes, love to know what tool we used and how we made things more efficient, but I'm with you. Like I hear my students being like, but how do you make a contract?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, or how do you write an email to a client, or like how do you push back on or negotiate or push back on a scope creep, and all those like very small moments. And those are things I try to bring into the classroom. But something I also learned as a teacher, and maybe I don't know if you felt this, but I feel like my credibility as a teacher is not near as cool as someone that you would bring in from the industry, despite the fact that you and I both have like industry experience. But I've always learned from my experience that like students will listen to someone else if I bring someone in. And I'm like,
that's human nature, my dear. Try telling your husband something, but if the doctor says it, then he'll do it.
This is so very true. But it is one of those, like, I want to hear more of those stories. Like, to your point, like I dream, and that's what I'm trying to do with WIP. It's like I know that even with Type Thursdays, like we're trying to bring those folks to the very front, right? Because again, like, yes, I love to hear from our big league folks for sure, but yeah. I was like, I just want to know someone's like workflow, like, or maybe something that like I could learn from their workflow. Because again, it's always about themselves, not always, but often about themselves and the end solution. It's the finished work and a portfolio.
Yeah,
it's rare that we get to see the moments of like, well, I crashed out during this part because I couldn't figure out my hours or what. Like, I want to hear like that.
The
juicy,
stories. Yeah. To make me feel like that I'm not alone. That I keep my computer keeps crashing, or yes, my client almost fired me, or something like that. Like, what are the stories that successful people can tell us that make me feel like I'm not so isolated in my journey?
Yeah. Like feeling like we were seen, because like either possibly losing a project, or like I rarely hear stories about a studio needing to like fire a client because they were just too much. Like, I don't even know how to do that. Right. So it's like those moments of nuances that really tell that beautiful holistic story. But again, not to diss on anyone who is like on big stages. It's just like, I crave to see more.
Yeah, and you're the type of person who will probably create that, right? Through this podcast or through a conference or a summit or whatnot, you will create that stage and that platform for people. But I would like to like tell your listeners that to get there, you want to also be speaking on those stages. You also want to be trying to get on these podcasts and having these conversations, because expanding your network will help your net worth over time. And also, again, those connections come back in dividends. Like, you will benefit from constantly participating with the community and growing your own network.
Yeah. So it's like a beautiful balance of elevating yourself as sort of like, the goal of elevating yourself is not like, it's not for yourself per se, but it's also to elevate what your projects and your community, right? Like, because you're essentially bringing them with you. And in order to elevate the community, you also have to elevate yourself in a non-self-serving kind of way. And I actually hadn't even thought about that, because I was always afraid of like, man, if I get on these big stages, I feel like it's very me, just me, and I really hate that. But I like your perspective where it's like, well, yes, it's you, but it's also like everything that you've been working on that you can bring with you. So I do like that a lot.
Yeah, when I train hosts and speakers, I always say, don't think about yourself. Think about the people on the other side of that camera or the other side of the stage that you're helping. And if you're helping them, if you just focus on what they're getting from your message or from your lesson, then it takes some of that pressure off. Do I look good? My hair good? Which is like me because I've been fussing with my hair, you know. You'll start to really focus on that transformation. Again, like as an educator, we love seeing our students blossom. We love seeing them fly. And when you see that in their eyes, right, Kirsten, you see that like, oh, I got it. Like it's so wonderful. This is why we teach, right? It's because you see that click in there. And if you think about that's what you're doing, you're giving to them. And they are the ones who are focusing on that lesson. They're not focusing on who you are or judging you.
Yeah. Because that's such a beautiful way of thinking of it. Because I've always felt like the work that I do as a host, as an educator, has always been for the community, for the students. But I like what you're saying about like decentralizing yourself, like at the moment where it's like, if you're worried about like how you look or how you're presenting, just always think about the fact that what you're doing is always going to give. How can it give back to the people who have been supporting you or that you're supporting? Like I really like that a lot. Like, because I don't like to be like the self, like, look at me, but it's like, I feel like you almost have to be kind of like, look at me, because like, but also like, it's because I want you to look at them.
Right. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love that. And you're also representing your industry when you speak, right? You're representing, not in a bad way, not like in a pressure way, like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. I must be the only graphic designer in the room that I'm representing the whole industry type of thing. But in the way, they're learning from you. They might not know anything about graphic design. They might not know anything about product design. And just getting to know you is their gateway drug into what it is that you do and also why it's important. So as designers, I think it's very important to advocate for yourself and advocate for why design is important, because so often designers are put to the very end to like, oh, we've already done all the thinking, all the planning, all the naming, all the copywriting. All you need to do is create a flyer. Yeah. It's like, that's not our role. Our role is to help design whatever it is that's happening, because we also think about the customer experience, right? The participant experience. And if you wait till the very end, all we can do is just do that small part of the customer experience. We can't contribute into the rest of it. So you really have to advocate for design as an industry when you meet people, because you're now representing it.
This is so very true. It's like try not to perpetuate bad behaviors, or like you said, like working with clients who, like really advocating for a seat at the table when at the beginning versus like at the end. I love that, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So I can't believe it's already like, I'm looking at the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, how has it been already almost an hour? So I'm going to end this with a spicy question.
Okay.
So we talked a lot about the design community and what we want to see more of. Is there anything that you would like to see less of?
In the design community?
Yes. Is there an abundance of something where you're like, I think we could probably see a little bit less of this? If that's too spicy, we could just do another, not a little bit different one.
What I want to see less of in the design community? There's something I'm thinking about, but it's too...
it's too spicy.
No, it's not too spicy. It's something I want to see less of. Okay. Something I want to see less of in the design community is, it just goes back to what I was just saying. People who are not advocating for themselves, not the importance of design and not the importance of their thought process, right? If you don't advocate for yourself, someone is going to replace you with AI, because AI is also not thinking for themselves. They are just doing. And if all you do is the production design, or you're just that pair of hands, or you just say yes, so don't just say yes, right? Then that hurts us all. So say no, have an opinion, make sure it's an expert opinion. You're not saying no just to say no. But give your feedback. I mean, you are the expert in the room. You're the design expert in the room. And so what I'm seeing in the design community is too many people saying yes because they're scared. They're fearful.
Yeah.
They want their job. They don't want any conflict or friction. And yeah, it's hurting all of us.
Yeah, trying to find that balance, right? Because it's like sometimes you don't want to say no because like you need to pay that bill, so you need that project. But like if you're gonna say yes, also advocate. Yes, and advocate. Right?
Yeah.
Yes, and advocate.
Yeah, I love pushback. I think pushback is part of that creative process. If you just say yes, yes all the way, a lot of the outcome is just kind of poor, bland, and then you don't show it in your portfolio because you didn't like it. Just say no and say, this is why, and this is why it could be better. Michael and I had a rule. It was push back twice and then let it go. Push back twice and let it go. And so by the second time, if they don't want to listen to you, just let it go because it's not worth it. But at least say something.
At least push back once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yay. Well, we're at time and I'm so excited. I feel like this could have gone on forever. So obviously we have show notes, but is there anything that you're currently excited about or working on that you'd like to share here while you have the stage, and where can people find you?
Oh, well, people can find me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So just type my name in, Rachel Elnar. It's easy to find. I also have a new consultancy called Together by Design, which is basically experience strategy and event design, event programs, and event production that I'm working on with a friend, and hoping to create more community with AIGA and also Together by Design. No matter how we do it, just want to keep supporting each other.
Yay. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I look forward to seeing you at our next wherever in the design realm.
Yes, I'll see you there, Kristen.
Yay.